Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to SF Commons. Tonight we have a fantastic show, and you'll be so excited, particularly to the young people of San Francisco. We have a hip-hop artist, and you'll hear his music in a little while. His work has been exposed to over 1 billion people in the social media. For a young person, he's very well versed on what's happening in the world today. He is an entrepreneur. He's a political and news analyst. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to meet Mr. An0maly. Hi, Mr. An0maly. How are you doing?
Amazing. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. I would love to play your song. So let's do that right now. Okay, I'm listening to your song. Oh, it's really good.
They told me it's a cold world, trying to stay humble. Taking out the woods, the lion remains jungle. Keep it 100, never gonna do nothing. Double negative, you know I'm doing something. Gotta break the chain before they break the record. Life's been strange and only getting more hectic. Gotta stay grounded, gotta feel my surroundings. Gotta get money or else I can't eat and then I can't get my sound in. That's the way that it works. I can change with the verse. Change what they say is engraved in this earth, but it ain't. It's a page that they made, it's just words. I don't need to listen, but I be on a mission. Brain can create, that isn't just superstition. Whether you grown alone or have children, know that your soul is dope. We all with.
Okay, enough of that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go back to his website to listen to the rest of his music and his website. If you look at our screen right now, where it says guest, An0maly, it's HTTP Legendary Vision. You go to his website and you will see his music and how to contact him and so on and so forth. So now let's talk to Mr. An0maly. How are you doing?
Blessed. Amazing. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, it's a pleasure. Okay, now I've been following you on social media, and I'm so impressed. Sometimes you get on live, and then there's all of these people following you, and then I see comments like, "Oh my God, for a young man, he makes so much sense." It's like, okay, let's not put down young people because a lot of young people know a lot, right? So now let's talk about what's going on in the world today. Okay, I think war is really a big thing, right? And it's really scary. This is your generation. You're impacted by it. So let's talk about war. North Korea, how Syria, all of these, and this is your future, your generation. So what's your take on all this?
I think that there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of lies being thrusted to us by a lot of the media sources that we think are trusted. So when you have a bunch of situations like that, I think that's how war entails because nobody really knows what's going on. So to stop the wars, I think we need to figure out what's going on, like where the wars are coming from. And nowadays, the news, they make fun of the president, but they're so politically correct that they lie to people. We have to get really to the core of what's going on because there's a lot of covert programs.
Right.
There's terrorism, religion, a lot of things play into parts of the war, but you can't talk about any of this stuff. So, and then if somebody does, they bash this and that, and I like to be as nice as I can about it because I don't like the mean rhetoric that certain people use, and I think that's why they don't listen to a lot of people. But we have to figure out what's going on. If we don't know what's going on, we're never going to stop the wars because, the news is lying, and then you can't talk about religion, you can't talk about war, you can't talk about anything. It's like publicly unacceptable to talk about stuff. So we gotta get the truth to figure out why the wars are starting in the first place. Is it us? Is it them? Are they bad? Are we bad?
Yeah.
And then, fix the stuff, hopefully. So I think we can get there.
Yeah, well, here's the thing that that's at the root of the issue. I believe it's all about money driven. It's all about money. The oil companies, the war defense contractors, you know, the banks, and so forth. So, you know, for the longest time, they were able to, the media was able to get away with just brainwashing people and thinking that we're trying to protect our interests, whereas it's not our interest. It's not the American people's interest. So
Absolutely.
you talked about Syria, and somehow, or rather, that seems to have reached a point where maybe, just maybe, there could be peace there. The president is trying to negotiate and create some diplomatic ties with Russia. Then Congress passed a sanction bill, and it seems like the president didn't have a choice but to sign off on it. And now the warmongers are clamoring for and are trying to scare people about North Korea. What's your take on all this?
I think that was a brilliant analysis by you. I think in Syria, we've been lied to for a long time. We've been duped. You know, George Bush and Barack Obama, we didn't really know what they were doing. We felt like it was for the best of our country, but a lot of sources from Syria and people like Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who went to Syria, she said everybody on the ground said that our presidents between Obama and Bush, with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State, were actually funding terrorists and giving money and weapons to terrorists. So Trump comes in, all of a sudden ISIS and Al-Qaeda are dying off, and
Right.
the news says the opposite. They say we're working with Russia, but it's going to take some deals like that to get peace there. And the Syrian people seem very happy with President Trump.
Right.
I've spoken to some directly. I've, you know, looked at both sides, but I mean, they have their own president. We can't be the world police forever, and it looks like we were causing a lot of the ruckus, you know, for the last couple of years. And in North Korea, who knows the truth? You know, Kim Jong-un is definitely a loose cannon of sorts, but who knows if the news is over-exaggerating? I'll say that I heard, albeit it's Dennis Rodman, you got to take it with a grain of salt, but he said when he went over there, he's friends with Kim Jong-un. He says that Kim Jong-un loves America, and he says that Kim Jong-un was dying to talk to Barack Obama on the phone, and that
Oh,
Barack
really?
Obama wouldn't
Yeah.
even talk to him. And then Trump comes along, and he says, hey, I'll talk to him, and CNN and the news were trying to block him from even talking to him. So it's pretty strange. I think we could figure it out if we talk, but the
Right.
news is definitely pushing war. But, you know, I don't know how crazy Kim Jong-un is and what's real, what's fabricated. You know, it's hard to really tell.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing about, you know, there's, in the 50s, America basically almost like sent North Korea to the Stone Ages. They carpet bombed North Korea, right? I mean, and let's face it, North Korea is a small country. It's a tiny country. Why would anybody in their right mind take on this mega military industrial complex that has military bases all over the world? It's just
Absolutely.
like when the, you know, media is trying to say that, well, you know, we should be afraid of Russia. Why should anybody be afraid of Russia? Russia is a tiny, you know, their GDP is one of the smallest in the world. Why would they take on somebody like America and NATO, right?
And that's the thing about Russia, too. That's a good point. If you listen to Putin talk, the news always stirs everything out of proportion. What Putin says, what Trump says, what Bernie Sanders says,
Right.
what Hillary says, they lie about everything. So if you listen to Putin talk, Putin admits that the U.S. is a major superpower. He says the U.S. Is the biggest superpower in the world, and they probably always will be. So a lot of these leaders, they don't act like the news says they act. You know, Putin
Right.
acknowledges that we're a superpower, and he wants no part of it. It's just he's not trying to play along with some of the games that they're doing. And in Syria, I mean, we were probably and most likely giving weapons and funds to actual terrorists. So when Russia comes in to help Syria,
Right.
we paint them as the bad guy, like, oh, Russia's trying to do this. But a lot of reports said that Russia's giving Syria humanitarian aid, and they stopped us from killing their president and leaving it like Libya or Iraq, where it just turns into a stomping grounds for terrorists. So, I mean, you know, we got to get the story straight, because we like to paint heroes and villains, but I think Malcolm X said it the best. You know, the media is the most dangerous entity in the world, that they have the ability to paint someone innocent guilty and guilty innocent. We have to understand the power of the media. If something happens, no matter what the truth is, everyone believes what they say. Between all of the big news sources, I mean, they have a monopoly almost on people's mind. It's complete mind control.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, I don't know how old were you? Okay, during the Iraq War, right? You know, it's the strangest thing. I remember distinctly, okay, I was like traveling through Europe, right? So I'll be in hotels and BBC is talking about, oh, the weapons of mass destruction, the weapons of mass destruction all over Europe. I came back to America, it's still the weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. Every single media, you turn on the radio, weapons of mass destruction. You turn on the TV channel, it's weapons of mass destruction. And after the U.S. has completely destroyed this country and had killed, and Saddam Hussein killed, 10 years later, well, actually, there was no weapon of mass destruction. That's the danger, right? I mean, that's really the scary thing about the media.
Absolutely. I mean, whatever they say goes. There's no way to really get around it. I think President Trump's doing a brilliant job. I mean, people want to talk this and that, but that all we have is the internet and social media. Before that, it was complete control. And I mean, a lot of the things that people said were conspiracies in 2001, 2002, the reports are coming out and the documents are out, and it was completely right. And people say to me, how do you know this stuff? Who do you think you are to talk about? But they release their own information. It's like they tell everybody, but no one pays attention. I don't make this stuff up. They have their own, documents released 10 years later. And I mean, a lot of the quote unquote conspiracy theorists were right about 9/11, Saudi Arabia being involved, and stuff like that. So I think the Iraq War, we let ISIS and Al Qaeda take over Iraq. It's a terrible idea. We need a long-term strategy, and also to respect other countries and other leaders. I don't know exactly what our strategy is, but it seems very short-sighted.
Oh, exactly. Well, do you remember you've seen the interview of Wes Clark, right?
Of course, that's great.
And when he was talking about how the Department of Defense, this was like years back, and he says, look, somebody just told me in the Department of Defense that we're going to start a war in Iraq, and there's this list of 7 countries, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one to YouTube if you guys are watching. General is Wesley Clark. He worked closely with the Bush administration, and he said that they had 7 wars planned with 7 different countries. These things are, pre-planned, and a lot of times it's a whole, brigade. Let's not forget, I don't like to make comparisons, but Hitler was a master propagandist. He didn't come in with tanks and guns and yell at everybody. He lied to everybody and got everyone's attention and love. He was a master manipulator, and he had, people doing the same thing that the Democratic Party is doing now, and that the media is doing. Once again, I don't like to make comparisons. I think America's on a way different level, but that's how you get to those points. That's how, we're starting wars, and Syrian families and kids and women, they have to deal with the fact that we don't care, that our kids watch Game of Thrones and watch the Kardashians, and that's great. But, our lack of interest in these wars that our country is starting has led to millions of deaths. So it's really unfortunate that people, don't care and get misled so easily.
Well, and let's look at the economic side of it. The U.S. has spent trillions of dollars on these wars, and these are trillions of dollars of the taxpayers' monies, right?
Absolutely.
And we should be looking at what could be spent. What could all those monies be used for? Let's talk about your generation. Okay, my generation, we were in a pretty good position. Like we had good colleges, we had jobs, people were able to buy homes and so forth. But your generation, I'm afraid your generation got kind of, messed up a little bit, or not messed up a little bit, big time. What do you think about that?
Definitely, like I've heard from, people, my parents and stuff, they're saying, you're not going to have any savings. You're not going to have the benefits we have from work. So, my mentality, I'm very nice, I'm very kind, but I understand. So I'm working really hard and, trying to save up as much money I can while I'm young, because I know we don't have the benefits. We don't have a lot of these programs and whatnot.
Right.
And the world is going to change drastically. It already has with technology. We have to start thinking to the future, because everything is incredibly unpredictable. So I just try to enjoy the moment, live life, but also try to play it smart, because we're definitely in an interesting situation with where we are in wars and economy, and it's really unpredictable. So
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, you supported Bernie Sanders, and part of his plans is like free colleges, single-payer health care, and employment opportunities, minimum wage, and so on and so forth, so people don't have to work 3 jobs, 3 to 4 jobs, just to keep a roof over their heads. I mean, these are not revolutionary, right? I mean, these are just, if you have a basically functioning society, we had all that, right? Your generation does not seem
Absolutely. I think that the only thing with Bernie is we have to watch, because I agree that we should have all those things, and life is probably going to have to get more socialized at a certain point with all the technology. We might have driving cars and all this stuff, so it's going to get socialized to an extent, whether we like it or not. But the scary part with the Bernie stuff is he'll take more taxes, and to me that's fine if it goes to good things. But I'm very hesitant to give that much power and money to the U.S. government, because even like you said, I mean, if we stop spending trillions on war, and I mean, I believe the Pentagon lost like $4.5 trillion.
And they can't even, they don't even know where it went, right?
Cars and schools. So we have this money, we just waste it and spend it on weapons and stuff. It's terrible. So I think a lot of Bernie's policies are not that far-fetched if we got it together and got a more trustworthy government.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. There's this legal scholar, Judge Posner, where he's one of the most studied legal scholars in the profession. And he was talking about, the biggest corruption we have is the fact that the rich owns Congress. That is pretty massive coming from a judge. I mean, so basically what he's saying is that you want to clean up the government, start with Congress. What do you think about that? We need to clean house.
I think money definitely has to play with it. We've gotten to a point in our society, I think we've lost morality. I understand money is great, it's cool, it buys things, but like there's something special about love and connection and caring about people that brings you a sense of joy and pride that money can't buy. So I mean, I don't trust anybody in Congress. I think I like Rand Paul. He's a Republican. I like Tulsi Gabbard, but the rest, I don't trust. I mean, out of the hundreds of, Congress and whatnot, like politicians, I don't trust any of these people. I think there's a good and evil battle being played, and I really do. I think everybody comes from a good place, but I think we're losing morality. We have to put morality back in the law. Even money's not going to do it. We just have to have, like, you need to get rewarded for doing good. Right now in the U.S. society, you get rewarded for being bad. You get rewarded for making plastic and pushing out terrible food and bad chicken. They reward people financially for doing the most insane things.
Yeah.
So we have to reward people for doing good things and get back to that morality in the government.
Exactly. When you talk to young people like you, what do they say? What are their concerns?
I mean, I have some friends that are pretty smart, I would say, but I think most young people just don't care. It's kind of sad.
Pretty sad.
I think a lot do, but a lot really don't. Like, you talk about this stuff and it's like no one cares. I mean, people watch Game of Thrones, they talk about sports, and I love sports. I love doing things. I like to enjoy my life. I'm not like always negative. I'm very fun. But I mean, a lot of people don't care, and a lot of people that do care, they're filled with hate for the president instead of like trying to build solutions. Because even if you hate the president, that's fine, but like the problem didn't start with him. I mean, George Bush, Obama, the intelligence.
Well, a lot of that hatred is created by the media
going back
too.
For 30 years, they've been selling drugs, smuggling in drugs and whatnot.
Right.
So I mean, it's ridiculous that the young have been hijacked kind of by the media. But I do think more people are getting woke, and I do believe everybody is a good person inside. So I think all it needs is like a spiritual awakening, and it's going to spread like wildfire. And I think it's already started, so we're getting there.
Yeah, that's great. So then, I mean, I think that the problem with a lot of the young people is the stranglehold in the minds. It's like when we were growing up, we had civics classes, right? But now you don't even have that. So I've seen some clips, television clips, where some reporters were interviewing young people. They don't even know who the vice president is.
Yeah.
They don't even know where certain countries are in the map, and so on and so forth. I mean, but they have to pay attention because this is your generation, this is your future, right?
I agree. I've been interested at a young age, like since I realized what was going on. I was very passionate about the prison system and the fact that I saw we were the most jailed country in the world. So, I was like inspired to try to help people to get, innocent people out of jail at a young age. this was like common sense to me, but I don't know. I mean, I can't. Some people just don't care. I have no idea why. I couldn't tell you why they don't care, but it's like so important to, you know, be part of the change and change yourself and be a good person. But as long as people are good people themselves, I think that'll do enough. But we got too many people pointing the fingers, not enough people self-reflecting and, you know, focusing on themselves.
But I think that the social media, you're right, is very instrumental in becoming like an education tool, you know, to like just let people know what's really going on, give them the real news, and let them decide after, you know, they've done all the research, don't you think?
Absolutely, and I think all it takes is one thing, because I think a lot of the media and politicians and stuff, it's built on a foundation of lies, like lie after lie after lie after lie. And they say sometimes on the internet they call it getting red pilled, but it's like you see a clip and you see something like maybe General Wesley Clark saying the Seven War thing, and then it just like wakes you up where you're like, oh my God. And then once you intake that information, you can never go back to seeing things. So I think that's all it takes, and then both sides, the left and the right, need to hone in and try to figure out what's right. But the first step is being aware that you're being lied to on so many levels. I mean, our food is not great food. I'm not complaining, but there's a lot of things are inverted. Things shouldn't be this hard. Somewhere along the line, like a lot of our society got hijacked by some people that just don't care. So we need to get back the sense of morality back.
Well, you're very busy doing all that.
I do my part. I'm very blessed.
No, it's amazing.
You know,
it's amazing. So it's
I'm passionate about it, so it's easy. And I've been working hard for 8-9 years, even through music, trying to spread a message of like truth and digging deep. So it's great that it's all working now, and I've worked hard. So, you know, while I have momentum, I want to keep pushing and see what happens.
That's incredible. Well, you know, I tell you, 22 minutes went so fast. But ladies and gentlemen, An0maly, please, website. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. That was wonderful.
And,
you're very wise as well. You're very smart.
Thank you so much. And here is your song again.
Here we go again. This is a song for the old and new. This for all we've been going through. This is a song for the kids who getting on with the business as the world gets a shifting when they call for you. This is a song for the hustlers, song for the waiters, bartenders and busters, song for the justice that we all gonna get one day and they can't say nothing. What you thought it was, not the same again. Different type of person, my verses come back to paint it in. Like we're all coloring out the lines and discovering what the world really is like if they never covered it. I can see the stars, I can see the planets, light in the sky. I know they look